And we've also kind of got a little personal with the conflict that's been going on as far as the protest and Donald Trump so far over the misconception over the purpose of the flag. But now we're going to get to the NBA because a lot of stuff has been going on in the NBA. Most recently, the biggest two drops, I have to say, in this past week that have happened is Carmelo Anthony going to OKC. And along with that, which I don't know, well, I know people know earlier, almost at the beginning of this offseason, Paul George went to OKC. I don't remember if it was a trade or just because Paul George's contract ended. I just know that's where he ended up, and now he has Carmelo. So the big three now in OKC is Russell Westbrook, Paul George, Carmelo Anthony. And how do you see the West looking now with that big three?
Tighter, I know that much. Especially like with all the moves that we've seen. The West has always been a stacked conference.
Yeah,
that's been that way for the last 10 to 15 years. But it's just like now we just have people just joining forces together. The league doesn't have a lot of balance. You probably have 8 or 9 really solid basketball teams, and the rest of the league is just what it is.
Yeah.
With these 2 and 3 superstars joining, I think we've seen this over the past 10 years. I think that the player who really started this revolution was Ray Allen, Garnett, and Pierce.
Yeah.
They put themselves together to win the championship.
And Rajon going over there.
And then LeBron kind of took it to a whole nother level when he went to Miami.
Yeah.
And then therefore we've kind of seen it more this year than any other year. Just people just splashing all over the place, going to different places. So with Melo being at OKC, I did know it was a sour situation for him with the Knicks. So obviously we know when Phil Jackson was there, he didn't really, he came out really vocally and saying that, hey, he just wasn't big on Carmelo Anthony, and it just was a toxic situation there for Melo. Personally, he really loved being a Knick. He did send out, like a thank you to New York, for the time he was there. Okay. But eventually you knew he had to move on. And Carmelo Anthony is one of those few players, I feel, along with Chris Paul, that, eventually what are you going to do with your career? Like, eventually, are you going to contend for a championship? Because do you want to be one of those players that ends up like, you were great at this, you did that, you won gold medals, you led the league in assists, or you accomplished this and accomplished that, but you never won a championship. So now I think right now, that's what it's about at this point. A lot of these teams are being assembled to beat the Golden State Warriors.
Definitely.
At this point. And we got to remember, as I always say, and Steve Moody knows this, the Golden State is not a super team.
Yep.
They play super basketball, but that team was built through
exactly.
the draft.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like I pulled Curry from here because he was great with this team, and I pulled Klay Thompson from here because he was great with this team, and Draymond Green was great with this team. No, they were built through the draft. Now, we do have KD who did come over, but that team already won a championship without KD. And he made them that much better.
Definitely.
So did they really need KD? Not so much, because they won the most games in NBA history in a regular season.
Without him.
And they won a championship without him.
Right.
But with him, look how much better they were. So now we had other owners around the NBA saying, like, we have to do something to compete with Golden State.
Yeah. No, definitely. I agree with you. I'm glad you brought up the whole Warriors thing, because I was literally writing it down as you were talking. No, it's perfect, because I was just wanting to add on, say the same thing you said, that, everybody boosted up about the Warriors being this super team. It's just this was just a hard-working team that grew. Like, this was a team that had to grow, like you said, basic college picks and NBA draft picks that just grew into their own entity. This wasn't somebody that Steph Curry was somebody talked about when he came into the league. None of these people were really high-mentioned people coming into the league, and it wasn't until the last 3 or 4 years, the last year of Marcus Jackson's tenure as their head coach, is that people started to actually see the Warriors as a contending team. And really, Marcus Jackson built that team. And I feel bad. I felt like they gave him the short end of the stick, letting him go that last year, because regardless on Steve Kerr coming, they were going to win a championship. And I felt like Mark Jackson made that team. Now, I will admit that, Steve Kerr is a champion player in general, so he probably did instill the last few components to make them just as great as they are now. But I would have wanted to see Mark Jackson build, because he did grow with the team. So if anybody came to just be a part of the super team, it was Steve Kerr first, before even talking about KD, which I still don't feel like.
He pretty much inherited.
Exactly. He inherited a great team.
And then we see that a lot in sports, just in other areas of sports. Like, who can remember with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers when Tony Dungy was there?
Yeah.
He built that team, assembled that team as their head coach. John Gruden comes in after Dungy's fired, wins the Super Bowl with Tony Dungy's team.
That's true.
Now, John Gruden probably added a couple more components, as you said, Steve Kerr did, but at the end of the day, he didn't create that. He inherited that. And same situation with I think back to the North Carolina Tar Heels. Like, us being from the Carolinas, we're very close to this story of Raymond Felton and everything. But before Roy Williams got to North Carolina, he was kind of doing some good things at Kansas, but never could win the championship with Kansas.
Yeah.
He took over, Matt Doherty's team, and within his second year there, won the national championship with another man's team.
Yeah. Happens all the time, man.
So, sometimes we inherit great things, and that's just our fortune doing so. I'm not going to say they're not championship caliber coaches for winning with those teams.
Right.
But just for the sake of saying Golden State was built through the draft. So that's why we see all these forces joining together, because they know they have to compete with this team.
Yeah, a true team. A true team
at the end of the day.
Not just people pushing together just to see, hey, you're strong at this part, I'm strong at this part, let's join together.
And a lot of things you're going to have to see how all this stuff is going to work together. Just because you have all these big names together doesn't mean it's going to, mesh together well.
Yep.
Like, you still have to see how Chris Paul and James Harden work together.
Yeah.
We still have to see what's going to happen at OKC with Westbrook and George and Melo, all these scorers there. Like, who's going to be the leader of the team? Who's going to get the ball in the clutch situation? Who's going to, take over the game when they're down by 12 points in the fourth quarter?
Let me tell you, I can tell you right now, Westbrook has Paul George and Carmelo at dinner right now, telling them, look, this is my team. I'm the captain now, and you guys will get the ball when I don't want the ball. That's what's going on,
and that's gonna be
that's it exactly.
Because I always want the ball.
Like, it's funny, and I tell people all the time, I felt like that was part of the reason that KD wanted to leave, is because we can talk about how great of a team that they were, even though they fell short. Once they got in the playoffs, but I felt like Russell pushed himself more into a dominant pitcher greater than what he was at the time. Because in between the two, anybody would say that Kevin Durant was the better player. But I felt that Russell Westbrook wanted that position regardless of who truly was better. And for KD not being as an aggressive or, putting himself into the leader position type person, he was getting bullied into just playing where he fit in, which by him being a phenomenal shooter, it always fit in good enough, but never good enough to get a championship. And so I felt like, he wanted to be in more of a cordial, family-oriented thing. I truly felt like, we can argue about their friendship or whatever, but I truly felt like, Russell Westbrook is, I won't say he's like a taint, not like tainted the team, but if he could have been more submissive on who he was, I felt like they could have seen a lot more success.
That team was built to win a championship too, but it just never.
Especially with a young Harden, like if they would have stayed together, they could have been what Warriors are now because there was a team that grew together. I mean, KD was known. Russell Westbrook was pretty known.
Making a name for himself, So and then Harden, but it didn't stay together. So now we see these teams putting all these superstars on one team, and with Cleveland now.
Yeah, that's the greatest thing.
Wade now, like LeBron used to always make the argument, LeBron doesn't have help. He's had plenty of help in his career now.
Yeah.
If you make a list of the players that have played there with him.
Yeah.
And now that Wade is going back.
Yeah.
How do you feel?
Definitely.
Give us the numbers on that.
How you
feel.
Okay, it's been confirmed today. We already known earlier this week, but it was confirmed in the contract. I would take it as signed today, as of today. Mm-hmm. Dwayne Wade goes to the Cavs for the veterans minimum of $2.3 million, which is still higher than what he was offered at OKC, San Antonio, and Miami. So, which is funny kind of seeing Miami wanting him back, considering how they shortchanged him the first time, which is the reason he went to Chicago. Mm-hmm. But I think it's good just because they do have great chemistry together.
And they have a proven track record.
They do.
I don't think it's the same dynamic of a team.
It's not. But I will say this: they have a better. Honestly, I'll admit to say that they have a better team than they did in Miami.
It's more of a balanced team, I would say,
because they have a better inside game. Because Chris Bosh, who they had, Birdman.
They had Bosh. They had
was Hassan Whiteside there
Allen,
yet? No, that was after
Allen. They had
Allen did go to the Heat, didn't he?
Yep. They had Mike Miller. They had
that was iffy.
They had. I mean, he did some.
Yeah, he did what he needed to do. But
Shane Battier.
Okay, yeah. Shane. Now Shane was a good part. I mean, Shane's always been a good defender. Mm-hmm. But I think now they definitely have a better centerpiece with Tristan Thompson. Mm-hmm. I can't think of the other big guy they have, but Kevin Love. That's their new Chris Bosh, which I think in between the two,
he can stay healthy. That's the only thing.
It's just like Chris Bosh. Both of them can stay healthy. I think that's pretty much it.
Blood clots is different.
That's true. Now that's true. That's true. That's something he can't control.
Yeah, but I mean, you can't control when you get hurt, but it's the way you condition your body to determine how well your body will hold up when you're pushing it to.
Yeah, that's kind of what I mean. I know you can't predict injuries, but he really I don't know what he can do to combat blood clots versus Kevin Love just training and conditioning his body. Mm-hmm. And so they also now have Isaiah Thomas. They have Derrick Rose, which if he can stay healthy, I don't even want him to play at his full force. I don't even want Derrick Rose to play at his full force. I just want him to be able to compete moderately. I mean, his moderate competition is still pretty good, especially because he's going to come off the bench. I'm sorry, he's going to have to give up that role to Isaiah.
Start because I don't think Isaiah's going to be ready for the season.
Oh, because of his hip, he's still hurt, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, so Derrick's going to have to start. I can see that, but I still just to preserve him because I'm still worried about him.
It's just going to look we're seeing Wade in a Cavs jersey.
Definitely.
It's going to look really weird. And then the thing is, too, I didn't think Wade anticipated all that happening with Chicago. Like me, my general manager at work, he's the biggest Chicago Bulls fan because he's from Chicago.
Yeah.
And he was like, it's like we just emptied out our whole team over the last 2 years. Like the whole thing with Jimmy Butler leaving, going to Minnesota.
That's another thing.
And then,
Rondo's gone.
What was his name?
Rondo's
gone now. So it's just like the team is just you lost Noah the year before, so and then you lost your coach and Tom Thibodeau, he left. So it's just like Chicago each year.
They might be the worst team in the league right now.
More and more talent. They were a pretty decent team in the East. So I guess Wade was like, I came here thinking that we were going to have a team that's already established, and plus that's his hometown.
Right.
Home area, and then he was just like, I didn't anticipate all this because when Jimmy Butler left, that caught me by surprise. But
I think he pulled a Kyrie.
Yeah, it's just like, okay, I want to do something different. Wade's at the end of his career right now. Wade had some good games last year.
He had really good games.
Yeah, in that last season he had with the Heat in the playoffs, he was doing some good things too.
Yeah.
But it's just right now, I guess, going back to a familiar place, but it is in a different familiar face, different place.
Yeah,
pretty much.
definitely.
Going to LeBron's
home now,
or you're going to LeBron's team as opposed to LeBron coming to him.